Everyone that goes, man, I just want to be my own boss so I can have freedom. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've
Overrated.
ever heard. And running a business is going to give you more time?
It is sick in your 20s.
Yeah, that's true. In your 20s, you're in disbelief that you're earning off of fun.
So I encourage everybody to be a failure up until their 30s.
Then get a real job after.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody, to the most amazing episode of The Careful Boys, where today we are blessed to have BD in the BD.
Welcome to the show.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
So we gotta know, how did you and Bart get connected?
Do you know how we got connected? Because I know how I got connected.
I honestly don't remember. I was trying to think. Maybe it was through Wiseman?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So back in 2020, when we first started teasing the idea of selling barbell, I was like, I don't know anybody in like the buying and selling of business space, so I just reach out to anybody. And then one of the biggest business people that I know is Bobby Hundreds. So I was like, yo, first of all, are you down to buy Barbell Brigade? And then he's super creative, so he actually said yes. He goes, oh, that'd be tight. It'd be cool to like do a fitness thing, whatever. And then Ben was like, no, we got too much that we got to. Ben is his, so it's like,
yeah.
Bobby's creative, Ben is like finance operations guy. He's like, no, stupid idea. I was like, son of a bitch. I was like, can you at least point me in the right direction? And then Bobby's like, my lawyer handles all kinds of crazy shit. Like he represents a bunch of like musicians, there's all kinds of celebs and stuff. I was like, okay, cool, thank you so much. And then he linked me with this guy named, I don't know if I should put his full name out there, but his last name is Wiseman. And
sounds like a real lawyer.
Yeah, a real lawyer.
First name.
Yeah. And thank God to this guy, because through a lot of the conversations I've had in like the M&A space, this fool don't around, which I really like. He's like a pit bull, like ready to just talk shit. And he was like, okay, cool, let me see what I could do. He's like, your company's kind of small. I don't know if anyone wants to buy your shit. he shoots it straight.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know if anyone wants to buy your shit.
Well, he's like pretty much like you're in no man's land. He's like, if you're 10 mil and under, like the evaluation, it's literally selling your business on Craigslist. It's not a complete car. It's running, but it's missing paint, or it has paint's missing a transmission. He goes, you can't technically list it on like one of those. Like what are those?
Like a big boy page.
Yeah, like a big boy page. Like bring your trailer. You can't list it on those.
Bring a trailer. You might sell it on Bring a Trailer.
I know. That's true. Yeah, you can't put it on a big boy page. You got to put it on like eBay. These little like.
So Biz by Sell is a small page?
Yeah. They're like all those guys are like small. The minute you cross you need to bring in an investment banker. That's legit. Yeah. So everything is small. So let me ask around, and then he's like, hey, you know what? Like one of my friends. All these guys, they already crushed it in whatever business they did. They actually came in to do like a super group called Golden Circle, and they might be interested in taking you guys on because they're looking for passion projects. And then that's when he linked me with you and Peter.
They're looking for charities.
Freebies, most. So that's where we linked.
That's where we linked up. Yeah. And then so our original discussions didn't work out because they were gonna do like a half operating deal, which I thought was pretty cool. But what I thought was super cool about BD and his team is although our deal didn't work out from that point on, he has been like this open book of like a soundboard I could bounce ideas off of. So he's kind of become like a mentor where I can go, hey, what do you think about this? Is this shady or whatever? And because a lot of people, it's like they do something with you, and if it doesn't work out, well, fuck you then, you know? But then for them, like I've been friends with them the whole time, and then they'll check in with me like, how's the sale going? Is it no one still wants to buy it, huh? I'm like, yeah.
That's it. So charity work.
Yeah. Bart pulled up to GCG in a Silverado, and I had like the same black Silverado. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna get along good with this.
It was the exact same black one, and so I rolled in, and then I was like, whose is that?
So that must have taken a lot of planning for you to sync that.
Months in advance.
Bart bought a Silverado for that reason.
I'm gonna get this guy for sure. Yeah, so for those of you guys that don't know, BD was one of the founders of DVS, OG Shoe Company, Matix, Lakai, and then everyone else in his group are super big names in whatever they did. And so it's really cool to have been able to cross paths with an entrepreneur that's like dealing with stuff that's on a way high level. Like I met your guys' CFO at one point, and then like just like the stories they would tell, because I would tell my stories and I think like my world's ending, and they would be like, oh yeah, our VP of like the UK chapter at that time would like do whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck, you guys have territories like that? And I'm like, and I'm just complaining about they won't let the licensing go through or whatever.
So before he keeps rambling about the failure of the barbell, can you tell us how you got started, how you got into the skating?
DVS was my first pair of skate shoes.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Thanks for.
I had the navy
Oh, he didn't buy them.
navy blue one. We stole them.
He stole them.
It was like a velvet navy blue one.
You're like, we got it for free.
I had some Lakais.
That's cool. Yeah. How did you get into all of it?
So, I was telling you guys earlier, I grew up in the Valley, in San Fernando Valley. My family started a skate snowboard company shop called 118. So we did that for a bit. It was going well. We kind of saw like some like white space in the market, specifically in like the footwear market, where at that time, like on our wall, it was just like DC, Airwalk, and Etnies. So it was like very early on.
Yeah.
And
What does white space mean?
just like an opening, Bart, like a you know, like a
Thanks, Bart.
Wait, so when you mention family, is it like you and your cousins or your parents actually were
parents.
so they're into cool stuff?
You know, my dad is very entrepreneurial, so I wouldn't say he's into cool stuff. He was into like figuring business out.
You say your dad's Tony Hawk.
I'm like, you didn't know that, you idiot? So were they into the sport, or they were just like, there's an opportunity here?
They were more into the opportunity in the business. My oldest brother, he's 7 years older than me. He had just graduated from USC, so my dad's like, yo, you just finished business school, like, fucking run a business, you know what I mean? So they were trying to figure out kind of what type of business essentially the family can buy that he could run. And that's where we landed on this, you know, basically like skate snowboard shop.
That's cool.
So, yeah, from there it was like figured out the retail thing, which retail's difficult. That took a bit. You kind of fail a bit, and then you kind of figure some things out. And then, yeah, we ended up launching DVS out of there, which was like 95.
So it was like a homegrown brand out of your shop.
Out of the shop, yeah.
Between you and your brothers?
At that time, it was me and my oldest brother, and then my middle brother was actually in software at that time. He ended up joining kind of the business like a few years later. So at that time was like me and my oldest brother, and then both my mom and dad were very
That's cool.
involved.
Family
So sick,
business.
yeah.
That's dope.
More on like my dad on like the finance side. So
Without like internet, how did you guys go like, this is how we're gonna make shoes?
literally, that's a great question. And the funny thing is, my oldest brother Kevin had gone to the library, like reading about stuff, figuring out stuff, old school. Like there was no like.
Our minds are blown. Library.
Oh yeah, the library.
And then was able to contact some manufacturers in Korea, and just had to go out and go for it and go meet some
Leap
people.
of faith, buy airplane tickets.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Park, would you make some shoes for me?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mr. Park.
It was probably Mr. Park, right?
Good shot.
Either that or Mr. Kim.
What was his name? I'll think of it.
Mr. Park Kim.
I'm thinking his first name was. Oh no, it was Lee.
That's the third one. we overlooked
It
it.
was Lee.
Did it take off right away, or like would you?
No, nothing takes off right away, Bart.
That was those wise words right there. That was a gem. We just got a gem. Write it down, somebody.
Why not?
No, it took a bit. And honestly, it was like I remember our first run of production coming in, and there was 3 styles, and one of the styles was like totally defective. Like it had these like lace loops on it, and they were all trash. And we were like literally having to go through each one and put like a Phillips screwdriver to see if the lace loops would hold. And then like you're like, oh no, that one's broken. and it was a disaster.
Mr. Lee.
How do you, with those brands like Etnies, Airwalk, or whatever, how are you able to position DVS in your store where people are like, oh, like what are those? What up, guys? Thank you for watching us for so long. If you like what we do, please support our Patreon. Joe, tell them what we have to offer.
So every week you get 2 videos. One never released director's cut, and another one too hot for YouTube, Patreon only. Every freaking week you get that, and you get access to our Discord where you can come chat with us.
And ask us questions that become episodes here, because we're gonna answer them and we're gonna take it seriously, and we wanna give you the responses that you want. So come stay connected with us, join our Patreon, click the description below for full details.
I think primarily, I mean, obviously it was like all of us were rocking it. Our windows was that, like we made it like a thing, and it was like, at that time, I'd say in Southern California, I mean, the store was 6,000 square feet, had a mini ramp in it, so it was a very
okay.
That's huge. It was like a premier kind of shop. So, and we carried everything, you know what I mean? And so I think it kind of, we're able to put it on this like pedestal in there just with all the other brands. So it felt just as kind of big as anything else in there. And that definitely helped. For sure.
Did you guys pretend like you didn't own it? Like, oh, it's a new brand from Korea. It's crazy.
These guys must be really cool.
I think everybody kind of put it together. Oh, you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that was kind of hard to hide.
How did like the hardcore skate community like accept it? Like for the actual community?
Oh, I mean, it's great. Yeah, I mean, from early on, one of our partners we had brought in was professional skater Tim Gavin, and obviously he had, you know, he'd been professional skater, you know, most of his life, so he had like a great network of athletes and, you know, riders that he pulled in, and then we had a great group of like young kids at the shop that were like coming up, so it had a mix of just like good kind of established athletes and then like a really good like young group of like kids coming up that were going to be like the next generation, you know. Like one of our main skate team managers, skate buyer, was Andy Netkin, which was then became like one of the co-founders of Primitive. P-Rod like rode for us and he was on the team, so we had like a mix of like kind of that like group of Valley kids that were like either became very high-end athletes or running other businesses. So it's a pretty cool like network of people that came out of there.
What did you feel like your shoe with like DVS, what did that bring to the table that maybe like Airwalk or Etnies didn't at that time?
Nothing.
No, you had the you guys had the removable lace loops, I remember.
You just stick a screwdriver in there.
First of its kind.
Come right off.
Big fan, man.
How old were you when you got involved in everything?
So
He doesn't have to answer my questions, not a big deal.
You already did it.
I think it was
He
a
said
joke.
nothing.
I think it was, okay.
No, he's serious.
do you want me to answer?
Not anymore. I would way rather know how old you were.
That's more important because its entrepreneurial journey started when?
Competing.
In elementary school or in high school?
High school. Yeah, I was in 11th grade.
See, that must have been a cool time because you're
Damn,
working at
that's
a cool
dope.
shop. You're around cool people.
Yeah.
Hey, great question, dude.
See? Thank you.
Probably one of the best of the day.
Anytime
What was I
anybody
thinking?
asked me about like when did you start making apparel, because I started making like shop tees and stuff like that, and I was like in high school, so I'm like, well, like 11th grade.
Well, that was like pre-child labor law stuff.
That's all good. You're on the cusp.
Yeah, back then it was fun.
Yeah.
Work permit.
I'm old. That was a long time ago.
What was the first milestone that you're like, oh shit, we took DVS to this level?
But more importantly, how old were you at that time?
Yeah.
Dates, I get very like, I remember like big dates, and then anything in between, I'm like, I don't really remember when that was. God, I don't know. You know, I'd say the biggest thing is like, I remember, this was probably later on, but when we had like invoiced $1 million in a month, I was like,
God
okay,
damn.
like
A month. Wow.
That's in the
like,
90s, huh? Shit.
That's when like we were like onto
Pre-inflation.
something.
Were you talking on that big ass phone? We invoiced $1 million in a month.
But I remember that was like
Sound
a
like
massive, like a massive milestone, you know?
Wasn't it? Not even $1 million in a year was not massive to you
Well,
in the 90s.
yeah, I mean, I remember when I was like 20 and at the retail store, we had done like $1 million in sales. Wow. And it was always funny because my dad was like, he was almost like telling one of our family friends, and he was like, hey, you know, the shop's going to do $1 million. And at that time, DVS had just kind of got started. My brother was focusing on that. I was focusing on the store. And my dad was telling a family friend, he's like, hey, you know, the shop's going to do $1 million this year. And, you know, PD's not old enough to drink yet. And it was just always funny because he like put these things together as like, here I'm 20 and we had just got this like store to like do a pretty
But
decent.
were you drinking?
A little bit. Little bit.
Hardcore.
Now I know why no one wants to buy a Barbell Brigade. That's fucking crazy.
So what was like right after DVS, or like what prompted the next projects for you?
So once we had got DVS going, some more white space. Bart was in the clothing side of it. We had kind of established DVS, the U.S. Retailers, distributors, and then we found an opportunity. Hey, if we can build a clothing company, we would then be able to sell these stores shoes and clothing. And so we ended up launching that in '98, so a few years later. And didn't really have like, I knew how to make some basics in apparel, but not like deep cut and sew stuff.
You were doing the design work too?
I mean, at that point, honestly, we barely had any like staff, so I don't know if you really call it design, you know? But yeah.
Resizing the same logo in different places?
Yeah, it's more like taking stuff we really liked and like adjusting it and then like going to market.
How did you guys like assign roles and do all that? Like working with the family can be crazy, but like
Yeah, how old were you when you were signing?
And as a teenager too, working with family and all that without blowing it all up, that's
It honestly, my brother had kind of just taken the role of like running all of the shoe side of stuff, like very early on, because we had the shoes and we had the retail store. So I was doing the retail store, he started doing the shoes. So that was kind of, that established itself. And then I would go back and forth and like pick up more inventory and bring it back to the store. And then I was like, yo, you guys, like, we're out of shirts. And it was like, his answer is like, he'll fucking make some more then. All right. So then literally from that, I just was like, all right, I guess I'll do the clothing. So just started doing like the DVS apparel, learning more about that, kind of expanding that product line. And then to a few years later, then we're able to kind of launch an entire line with Matix. So it wasn't very like scientific of how shit happened. It was just like, okay, now you figure it out, you know, move on to the next problem.
Do you feel like that's like the main thing of like entrepreneurship is just no one knows anything and everyone's just figuring shit out all the time?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know anybody that knows anything.
And just kind of going for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like nowadays I'm a lot more conservative. Like back then I didn't really know. So we were just kind of doing shit, but it was almost like good to not know.
Yeah.
You know? Because you're like, fuck it, let's try it.
Is there a part of you now that kind of like misses that feeling a little bit?
Yeah, because now you just have, there's so much more responsibilities and like, you know, back then you're young, like you didn't really need to make very much. It was like renting a little apartment with a few people and like, so it was kind of like, fuck it, yeah. But now there's a lot more to like, there's a lot more responsibilities. So it gets a little more tricky, right? But you've also learned a lot.
You that told me, like something happened, you needed to, I don't think it was Paris Fashion Week, but you needed to ship something somewhere. and then it couldn't go through, so you're just like, well, fuck it. You jump on the plane tomorrow and you just throw it in your luggage and you take
Oh
it.
yeah, we do that shit all the time.
Like, yeah, what was that story again? Because like,
That was at Golden Circle. That was for local authority. So we worked with that brand for a while, and samples were late. All the samples and the crew already left.
samples are always late, huh?
Samples are always late.
Fucking samples.
Yeah, it's always like that.
Fucking sample.
Every fucking industry.
been saying.
God damn.
So yeah, we got some more samples, and then one of the guys in the office, I was like, "Look, you want to go to Paris?" And he's like, "When?" I'm like, "Later today." And he's like, "Fuck yeah!" And I was like, "Cool, bring that suitcase," and I grabbed you a ticket, and he's out. Bring the samples.
Because that's what it's always all about. I feel like in entrepreneurship is just like, how do you always think outside of the box to get the same shit done?
Yeah.
But then also, I think the fun part of that is like you're always brainstorming some crazy idea. But then the stressful part is if it happens consistently, then you're like, fuck, I have zero stability or predictability in my life too.
Oh, you went through it. Yeah, it's tricky. I don't know if you guys have all like owned businesses or obviously outside of this, but like it's hard, man. There's a lot to it.
Everyone that goes, man, I just want to be my own boss so I can have freedom. And I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Stay working a job. Don't. The hell you thinking? You running a business is gonna give you more time? Are you fucking stupid?
It is sick in your 20s. It's so sick, like you said.
It sounds
you
really
just,
good, too.
When you just don't have as much responsibilities or things to tie you down, you don't have children, you don't have a mortgage or whatever. You're down to just like live off the streets and stuff. It's fucking tight because you feel like when you barely move the needle, it feels like you did something crazy.
Totally.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true. In your 20s, you're in disbelief that you're earning off of fun.
Yeah. So I encourage everybody to be a failure up until their 30s.
Get a real job after.
30s, get a real job
good
with like
benefits,
benefits, healthcare and shit like that.
Especially if you have a family and stuff.
Dental's good.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you had a family?
Or when you got dental. Let's talk about that.